Welcome to the bonus show. President Joe Biden is releasing 15 million barrels from the Strategic Oil Reserve to try to tame gas prices, as the case may be. Now, one thing I think is interesting to mention is we haven't really been following the trajectory of gas prices over the last little bit of time. We had this big spike that peaked right around mid-June, where the national average hit $5.02. Then we saw a dramatic decline down to about $4 a gallon by the beginning of August. Prices continued down, but more slowly, down to sort of between the middle and end of September, around $3.70 a gallon. And then prices have kind of gone up and down. And one of the things that's important to remember is it's normal for the prices to go up and down. And I think one of the things that's happening, Pat, and we'll get to this, to the Strategic Oil Reserve in a moment, is typically we don't watch gas prices as closely as maybe we have over the last year and a half. It's really common that they'll go up 20 cents and down 20 cents because people are watching them so closely. Over the last month and a half, or even less than that, even last month, we've seen prices go down to about $3.70, then up to $3.95, now back down to about $3.80 or so. This is actually normal. This is not necessarily indicative that you have to do anything in particular.
Right. Gas prices in the 2 range, the 3 range. That's pretty much what we're used to. I think we all just have this shell shock from the fact that it hit $5 a gallon on average over the summer. And we're all worried that it could get back up to there. So if and when it does hit the 4s again, I think there'll be a lot more movement to, raise concern about this sort of thing. But if things level out around here, that's not too crazy. It just kind of plays into this picture of inflation and these other rising cost concerns. But
yeah,
$3.50-60 that's not too bad.
I get the sense, and I don't know. I get the sense that this is being done more for the optics of, number one, being seen as doing something, and number two, just getting a lower sticker price on gas more than it is out of any real economic need. I mean, 15 million more barrels, I don't think it's going to do much to the price, first of all. And what it does do will be relatively temporary. I never want to write off the impact of a few cents per gallon. But the truth is, for most people's budgets, a few cents per gallon really doesn't make a difference in whether you can make it to the end of the month or not. It's just math. I'm not ignoring the financial plight of anybody. It's really not that much. I am sort of wondering whether this is more about, hey, here's something to announce in advance of the midterms, which will have a little impact, and it will be more for optics than for real economic changes.
Right. Based on our previous calculations, removing some oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve will lower gas prices by about 10-15 cents, which is not going to make the difference in people's budgets. Like maybe whenever you fill up your car, instead of having to pay $80, you have to pay $77, something like that.
Yeah.
$3 of savings. And I guess it adds up, but not to a tremendous amount. I think it is more about seeing that sticker price and seeing the trajectory because people want to see that go down over time.
Yeah.
And then you talk about the politics of it. That is the big criticism about this, that Biden is trying to buy votes for Democrats in the midterms. But I think any Republican that's levying that charge is ignoring the fact that they do that too on their side. They do it with tax cuts. Trump, right before the 2020 election, passed that stimulus bill that gave people like $600 checks. What is that if not trying to buy votes? So you can make the argument, I suppose, but you're guilty of it too on your side.
No doubt about it. So let's see what this does, if anything. I just don't know that voters are going to make the connection between Biden announcing this to be done in December and voting for a Democrat for Senate in your state. I just don't know that voters are making that connection.
I don't think they're making the connection with Biden releasing the oil, but they may make the connection with the gas prices going down. So I think that's the thing that they're trying to focus on.
I guess the issue is if this won't take effect till December, it's after the election. But listen, we'll see. We'll see if and what happens with the prices and if and what happens with polling. And then we'll see if there's sort of any connection there. Madison Cawthorn, the radical Republican congressman who was defeated after just one term, not even, in the primary during his first term, and will thankfully be leaving Congress. He is going to stand trial in January for allegedly bringing a loaded gun to an airport. Now, you might be saying which time, because this has actually happened more than once. Madison Cawthorn has a court date, January 13th, related to the charges for this incident where he allegedly brought a loaded gun to the airport. This is a possession of a dangerous weapon on city property. This happened at Charlotte's International Airport in April. He was released in standard protocol. It is not typical. He didn't get special treatment in not getting pretrial detention for this charge. It is typical that with this charge, you are released after the handgun is confiscated. And he is yet to enter a plea. On Instagram, he said the day after the incident, I made a mistake. It's just a flat out mistake. Of course, it's the second time he made the mistake because in February of 2021, TSA agents at Asheville, North Carolina's airport also found him with a Glock 9mm pistol. No criminal charges took place then. This time there are charges and the trial date has been set. You know, I don't know that I have a strong feeling, Pat, about like what should happen here. There is a kind of viral police body cam video that's out there. When this happened to just a random guy, I don't even remember at what airport it was. It might have been in Georgia. I just don't remember. A guy had a gun in his luggage and TSA found it. They brought police. The guy was completely apologetic and it was just chalked up to a mistake. No charges were filed. The law enforcement kept the gun at the airport until the guy returned from his trip and then he was able to pick it up. Am I out for blood and I think that guy should necessarily be charged? I don't really know the answer. And the reason I say that is I don't know about Cawthorn. The video I saw, this guy clearly was not trying to get a gun onto the plane. The guy just didn't know where it was. Not knowing where your gun is a form of negligence with a tool that could kill people. So like we do need to take that seriously, but it is obvious that it was just a mistake. I just don't know. I don't know what should be done in these cases.
I'm very much sympathetic towards giving a warning on the first time, especially because like it's one of those things where you live in a state where you're able to have a gun on you. You can conceal carry. You may just be used to bringing it around with you everywhere. And that's
the
just
airport
kind of the gun culture there. It is crazy, but I suppose that it can happen. And people, I know that ignorance of the law is no excuse, but people could be unaware. And if there's no like malice, if there's no bad intention with it, I kind of get the idea that maybe you should not charge and say, okay, this is a warning. Don't do this again. This is very much illegal. We'll keep the gun. And when you return, we'll give it back to you. But with Madison Cawthorn, he did it twice.
It's
right?
not the first time, right? He got his warning.
So with the second time, I do think that a misdemeanor charge makes sense here. He should have to go through the criminal process because he should have known better by that second time. And maybe there's an element of hubris to it where he figures, oh, I'm allowed to have a gun on me because it's my constitutional right. Or maybe he figures I'm a congressman, so I can do this, or I got away with it the last time, so what's the big deal? And I just get the sense that with most people, they're not trying to do this with any bad intent. And so you give a warning on the first time.
Yeah, I'm, one of the things I have talked about a lot is two justice systems, and this type of leniency often isn't given even on drug charges. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to sound like I'm the guy saying, oh, give leniency to the mostly white dudes with the guns at the airport and then throw the drug users or low-level dealers in jail. Like I'm not trying to do any of that. I'm just thinking out loud about, okay, like we need to do something so that it's taken more seriously. You can't just show up at the airport with a gun, like without a doubt. I just am thinking out loud about how far we should be going. I don't know.
Well, yeah, when dealing with the two-tiered justice system, I suppose there's two approaches. One is to throw the book at everyone and be entirely strict, so you treat people equally that way. The other is to be lenient towards these sorts of things, or at least err on the side of leniency whenever possible, and you administer that leniency when it comes to white people and black people, white-collar people and blue-collar people, all these different types of groups. And I tend to go with that second option there when it comes to drugs, when it comes to guns, these sorts of things. I just tend to think that we overcriminalize too much in this society as it is, and warnings they have their place. And sometimes with a case like this, that's what you want to go with. Let
us know what you think. And again, just because you could have one opinion about Madison Cawthorn because it's the second time and a different opinion about the first time this happens or not, let us know and we will do a follow-up. Hey, this is a crazy story from the old stomping grounds of the David Pakman Show in Western Massachusetts. A woman is being charged with sending a swarm of bees at police deputies at an eviction that took place. This is a crazy story, and so many of my friends from where I grew up have been posting about this to Facebook. So here's the story as reported by the Associated Press. A Massachusetts woman who released a swarm of bees at sheriff's deputies as they tried to serve an eviction notice has now been charged with multiple counts of assault and battery. This is 55-year-old Rory Woods, and you can actually find a picture of her getting arrested. She's literally wearing a beekeeper's suit in the arrest. I mean, just the imagery is it's unbelievable. You can find the Associated Press article. She pleaded not guilty at her arraignment on October 12th in Springfield, Massachusetts District Court, released without bail. She and other protesters say, we were trying to prevent a wrongful eviction. The homeowner brought evidence of a bankruptcy, a stay to court the next day, at which point everything should have stopped. And it didn't stop, so she says, and the police still showed up and tried to evict her. And Hampden County deputies say when they went to the home in question on the morning of the eviction, they were met by protesters. That Woods, who lives in Hadley, was one of the protesters, arrived in an SUV towing a trailer carrying beehives and started shaking the beehives in order to release the bees and causing hundreds of bees to swarm out and reportedly sting one deputy. And I'm sort of laughing, but this is crazy. I mean, this is crazy behavior. Woods, knowing that this was the plan, showed up wearing a beekeeper's outfit in order to protect herself and was eventually handcuffed, but not before more sheriff's department employees were stung, including 3 who were allergic to bees. She reportedly said, "Oh, you're allergic? Good." This is a crazy, crazy thing to do.
It's definitely creative. It's thinking outside of the box, but it's also a serious crime. I think that when most people think about assault and battery, they think about one person wailing on another, like physical strikes, punches, kicks, that sort of thing. They don't think about these other types of things that could be assault, like unleashing a bunch of bees at people or tear gas or throwing something at somebody. And yeah, she's definitely not helping her case by saying, "Oh, you're allergic to the bees. That's good." That's got to make things a little bit more severe, because that could potentially be deadly for those people who are allergic. Hopefully they had an EpiPen by. But yeah, this is an absolutely crazy story, and no wonder why you came from this part of the country.
Yes, exactly. Now, I'm going to just throw something else out there to see what you think about this. On average, not on average, out of the total population, somewhere between 5 and 7% of the American population is believed to be allergic to bee stings. Now, that doesn't mean you go into anaphylactic shock and immediately need to be hit with an EpiPen, but it's some degree of allergy. Given that, should there not be, I'm not talking about attempted murder, but I'm just saying, is this a more serious crime than it might seem because of that?
I think so. Yeah, I absolutely do think so. And I wonder if the numbers matter to assess that calculation. Because like, if there's just one cop, there's a 5 to 7% chance that they are allergic. But if you have a group of 20 cops, then yeah, there's probably a significant chance that at least one of those cops is allergic. So does that mean that the crime that you get charged with should be more severe, just given the odds of that? I think so. And that's why it's a lot more serious than it leads on. Like, we were laughing about the details of this story because it is so bizarre, and who would think to do something like this? But there is a serious component to this where someone could actually die from it.
Think about a different scenario, right? Like, let's see, how common is, soy allergy isn't that common. What's another food allergy that's common?
Peanuts?
Peanut. Okay. How common is peanut allergy? Peanut allergy is 1 in 200 adults. Okay. So imagine, I'm just throwing this out, there's a large restaurant that seats 200 adults in a night. Imagine that someone secretly goes in and sprinkles peanut powder over all 200 entrees, meaning that statistically there's one adult in there who's allergic. Is that more of a crime than just, like, I don't know, tampering with food? Because statistically, 1 out of those 200 people has a peanut allergy. I don't know. I
think it would be. I mean, I think you're playing with the numbers there. There's some risk that that you're taking on by doing something like that.
Yeah.
You know that you're choosing the peanut oil for a reason as opposed to something else that you want to tamper the food with. My sense is that it is. Yeah, I mean, it's a random attack. It's almost like terrorism in a way.
You
don't know who's going to get hit hardest by it.
I recently read Richard Preston's book Demon in the Freezer, which is about let me think if I recall. It's about smallpox, Ebola, anthrax, including the anthrax attacks around 9/11, smallpox, Ebola, anthrax, and something else. Anyway, the volatility and contagiousness of some of these agents is truly scary. I mean, reading about it, we talk about if you are celiac and you go into a pizza place and there could, like, if I'm not talking about, I'm gluten-free. I'm talking you actually have serious celiac. You can become very ill just from going into a pizzeria where there is a flour flying in the air. Some of this stuff, like smallpox, is so contagious. It's what are the elements? The pieces of it are so volatile that almost with no wind, they can just get sucked through HVAC systems. It's crazy how contagious some of this stuff is.
Yeah, we're lucky to not have any severe allergy like that. That would be absolutely wild.
Yeah.
And I have to ask, why is the book titled that, Demon in the Fridge?
Well, I think freezer. Right, it's because for a period of time, the last remaining smallpox was sitting in a couple freezers. And there was this big debate, including during the Clinton era. Do we destroy the last smallpox or do we keep it in case we need, because we don't know for sure that there's no smallpox left, a repository somewhere. What if we need to develop a vaccine? We might need what's remaining of the smallpox. And so it's in the freezer, so to speak.
What did they ultimately decide? That's quite the ethical dilemma.
Bill Clinton ultimately decided not to destroy it. And to be honest, the book stops 20 years ago. The book is from 2002. I don't know what the state is now of those smallpox reserves.
Now, given the lab leak conspiracy theory, there's probably some debate that's been rehashed over that, whether they should get rid of that.
Let's see. There are 2 WHO designated stocks where it is still stored and used for research. So it seems it was not destroyed.
Not destroyed. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to feed into a lot of conspiracies then.
Maybe so.
They unleashed the Wuhan virus on us, and next they're going to do it with smallpox.
Yeah, and the book talks about, by the way, at the point at which there was the discussion of destroying it, inspectors realized Russia was doing like smallpox amplification and modification studies, and that was a big factor in saying we shouldn't destroy this, because given that Russia's messing around with it, we really may need to develop a vaccine again at some point.
There's always an arms race, isn't there?
Yeah,
whether
there
it comes
really
to
is.
Space, to nuclear weapons, to now smallpox.
It's
I wish
disturbing.
we didn't operate in this way.
I do recommend the book to you, though. And actually, Richard Preston has a lot of other good books. One just focused on Ebola and many, many others. All right, we'll see everybody tomorrow. New show, new bonus show.